probably don't want me to move around.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. My name is, what is it? It's Emma Jane Graham Delano, or Delano. A lot of people confuse how to say this name, but I think of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, so I say Delano. So pick your pronunciation, I do not know. I'm going to talk mostly about my husband, Edward. You can see here, this is Edward, and his parents are also buried in this area, Rufus and Almeda. This is Edward and me. Okay. Edward was born in 1854 here in Sodus, and he was the only child of his parents. Step aside for a minute and be somebody else. If you folks are ones who use Ancestry.com or findagrave.com, don't believe everything you see there. Always ask or look for primary sources, and probably more than one primary source. Because if you look at some of the ancestry information, they have wrong information, is all I can say. Anyway, as a young man, Edward worked on a farm threshing. Well, this was before I knew him, so I don't really know what threshing was, except that I know he drove 5 or 6 horses in a circle, round and round, so that would operate the separator. I was actually from Clyde, and I was born in 1860, and we met in the 1880s, and we're married in 1888. I was 27, and Edward was 33. Edward at the time had already gone many miles. He had been a teacher. There was a schoolhouse. This is called School Street, that first street over there. And he had been a teacher there. And then he was a principal, and he was also the commissioner of education in Wayne County. He actually, at some point in the late 1880s, went to Albany and was the chief examiner for the State Department of Public Instruction, which is called now the Department of Education. And that's where he worked on and perfected uniform examinations for teacher certificates. And I don't remember ever taking one of those tests, but did you?
No, not that
Anyway. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Some other little facts about Edward, who was quite the guy. He was president of the Wayne County Teachers Association. He was president of the New York State Association of School Commissioners or Superintendents. He was a Republican and very involved in politics. He was chairman of the local election board. He was also a correspondent for several Wayne County newspapers for over 50 years. And in fact, if you look online, you will find his name, E.C. Delano, as the author of quite a few articles. It was interesting to me to find out he was an 8th generation direct descendant of Philip Delano, the French Huguenot who came to America on the Mayflower and settled in Plymouth with all the other pilgrims. A little bit more about him. In 1910, he was actually, we were living in Los Angeles, California. He was very well known because of his connections in Albany and also all of Wayne County, of course. In the newspaper article where he was commenting on the growth of the city of Los Angeles, he said that he can see no limit to its growth, grandeur, and importance. In 1917, in May, he wrote a letter to the president of the Pennsylvania Railroad. He was concerned about the rumor that they were going to close the Sodus Center station, but he was assured that they were not. I'm sure it has closed in the meantime. In December 1923, I died. Now, I'm sure Edward, they say he never really recovered from the loss of me. We were everything to each other. We didn't have children. We didn't have any other relatives. So as a matter of fact, he purchased the little park in Sodus Center right before you go over the bridge. There's that park on the left. And he purchased that and donated it to the town of Sodus to be preserved forever as a park in the name of his wife, the Delano Park. Here's an important thing. Before his death, Edward bought this cemetery, the land, and the church, the meeting house, and he donated it to the Baptist Rural Cemetery Association. And then in his will, he left $5,000 to the association for upkeep of the property. Also in his will, he left $25,000 to Cornell University to create a scholarship in the name of his parents, Rufus and Almeda. That was to go to Wayne County students to help them with tuition or other costs that they would incur. He also left his residence to the St. Luke's Episcopal Church so that they could use it as a rectory. Also, here's an interesting thing. He gave all his library books to Roy Brower, brother of Taylor Dennis Brower. And various amounts of money were also given to cousins and friends in Sodus Center. Now, I just want to talk for a minute or two about Arbor Day. Now, I've heard different rumors about Edward Delano and Arbor Day. He did not invent Arbor Day. It was actually a gentleman from Adams, New York, which is between Watertown and Pulaski, and on the edge of the Tug Hill Plateau. So he, obviously a lover of nature and trees, and when he and his wife moved to Nebraska in 1854, he was actually a newspaper man, an editor of the first newspaper in Nebraska City. And let's see, he and his wife bought 160 acres of land there and planted trees and shrubs on all 160 acres. And then it was actually his idea to have an Arbor Day. And in his career, he became involved in the legislature, and eventually he was the third United States Secretary of Agriculture. Well, in, let's see, it was in November, no, it was, sorry guys. Edward Delano, meanwhile, was interested in the Arbor Day idea also. And it was in 1881 that he wrote a letter to the local paper about shade trees and the importance of shade trees. And I remember even all the maple trees that were along South Geneva Road and School Street. And I remember at the old high school, all the maple trees and the song that we used to sing, amongst the maples and the locusts. That was all him. He drove that, and it became a thing for schools to honor Arbor Day and plant trees. And then when he actually was in Albany with that position in Albany, he was the one who made up a flyer for the state to tell them about Arbor Day. And in New York State, the legislature approved the statewide Arbor Day in 1888, and our first Arbor Day in New York State was in 1889. And in 1970, it was Richard Nixon who recognized all the efforts to make it a nationally recognized day. Not exactly a day off, but a day. Yeah. In the beginning, Arbor Day was celebrated on the 22nd of April because that was Sterling Morton's birthday. But now it is it's usually the fourth Friday in April. Just a little tidbit about Sterling. Julius Sterling Morton is one of his sons, was the one who started Morton Salt. Oh. So that's kind of interesting. I think that's all I have about the Delanos, and maybe you'd like to see this picture. There's also a painting of him in the foyer of the church. That big mustache, that was really scratchy.
Pretty good mustache.
I know.